Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to Watchbox, and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email me, Team Mosso at thewatchbox.com. It's in the description below. Your purchase and pricing email question line for buying this or any watch you see on any Watchbox platform. Reach out to me directly for pricing. Email tmosso at thewatchbox.com. Today we are discussing a 2020 model launch. This one was actually launched in November of 2020 for the 2021 model year, and it's the second installment in the series from Moser Cie known as the Streamliner Flyback Chronograph. The first one was a 100-piece limited edition. This one is limited by production, though not individually numbered in a series. This timepiece is the Funky Blue. So you have the Streamliner Flyback Chronograph Funky Blue, dimensionally identical to the original model, but more colorful. So 42.3 millimeters in diameter, 14.4 millimeters thick, and then from link to link across the case, it measures 48.2 millimeters, and it has a fully integrated bracelet. We're going to throw it on my wrist, which is 16 centimeters in circumference. The watch is not as massive as it looks in pictures. You can see it is much more compact on the wrist, and it has a wonderful organic bracelet form that flows around the wrist contours, and I can recommend it for a wrist as small as 14 centimeters in circumference. It's flatter than you would think. With a sloped case flank, it will fit underneath the cuff, and you can see from over the top, the lugs themselves are nowhere near the edge of my wrist, so the fit here is outstanding, secure, and the proportion is handsome. The bracelet is absolutely lovely. There's a little bit of 1970s Omega Speed Sonic lobster tail chronograph bracelet here, also a little bit of Abel Sport Classic and Sport Wave, but this is very much Moser's own design, as the integrated bracelet watches of today all emulate the Gerald Genta Nautilus, Jumbo Ingenieur, and Royal Oak from the 70s. This watch draws from the 70s with its radial lapping machine pattern across the bezel, that brushed pattern, the integration of case and bracelet, and the tonneau form, but these are not the forms used by Gerald Genta. It doesn't look like a Nautilus, it doesn't look like a Royal Oak, and 3 cheers for Moser and CEO Edouard Meylan for doing something that's evocative of the era without being literal. This watch is handsome, and you know the era being referenced, but it stands on its own 4 lugs. Now the finish is outstanding. You can see the polishing between the individual links, as well as a bevel that runs down their shoulders, satin finish on the outer flanks, satin finish across, punctuated by those polished inner bevels. There is a double deployant twin trigger actuated clasp. It's a non-sequential close, so either side can close, and you can see that pins and sleeves here are used for sizing, so you'll need a block and a punch to size, but it is a very secure system. You can see that the case flank in Moser fashion is evacuated with 3 dimensions and depth, but it's not the scalloping they use on their conventional dress watches, nor is it the coined hollow used on the flank of the Pioneer sports watch. This, unlike the Pioneer, is actually a recess that runs all the way down the length of the case and unites both sides unbroken. You can see that the pushers are faceted and distinctive with high polished faces, and then there is a faceted crown that I should also mention is a screw down unit. The watch remarkably 120 meters water resistant, which may not be surprising. It's not an extraordinary depth. What is extraordinary is that Moser advertises that you can use the chronograph pushers. It is a dynamic depth rating, so down to 120 meters you can use the chronograph pushers. Very few watch brands will advertise that kind of security against water intrusion. Again, the dial recalls the 70s, but not literally. I don't look at this watch and say, oh, that's Omega, Breitling, or AP. This is a watch that has a dial using a checkered flag race style track for the minutes and seconds, and that checkered flag motif allows you to easily read fractions of a second. It is a chronograph with twin registers. In spite of the fact that there are no sub-registers, here we have 2 central registers. You can see it was an instantaneous jump system, courtesy of the caliber inside. We'll talk about it in a moment, but you have radial 60 seconds and then a radial 60-minute counter. Now the watch also features flyback action, so you can reset and restart to time something that may occur in rapid succession with a prior event, such as a race car crossing a start-finish straight. Now, the watch features a funky blue dial, which is very Moser, a no-date profile, which is very clean, and again, very Moser, and then a fume fade, which means it goes from a lighter color at its center to navy blue, almost black at its edge. Here, there's a few well-chosen flashes of red on the minutes and seconds track. So we have blue, we have dark blue, we have red, and we have white. You'll note that the hour and minute hands here are actually compound constructions. They're polished on their base, and then they have global light luminescent material applied. This is a ceramic-like material that is 3-dimensional. It's basically a chunk of loom. There is a 60 minute or second Arabic numeral polished and applied up at 12 o'clock. Moser is very specific about its vision for dials. They should be distinctive of the company without being self-promoting to a fault. So the most you're ever going to see on a Moser dial is Swiss made and the company name. Generally, they like to reduce to the minimum, or perhaps they like to reduce to the maximum, one might say. Turning it all over, this is just as fascinating as the dial side, maybe more so. The dial covers the winding rotor, and what you're looking at is an automatic movement. Moser calls this the HMC 902. I call it the Agénor. Agénor makes a movement called the 6361 or Agénograph chronograph caliber. Got its start with Fabergé, so we're talking that echelon of watchmaking. It's an automatic winder with 54-hour power reserve, flyback chronograph capability. It's got the 6060 central registers on the dial side. It beats away at 21,600 vibrations per hour. Pivots on 55 joules. It features a full balance bridge and a free-sprung index, very tolerant of shock, very durable. It does not have hacking seconds, and that's really the only refinement it lacks. It is extensively hand-finished, and it features a unique clutch system. So it's a column wheel system, and you can actually, you could see the column wheel on the case back. It's right underneath my finger. You can see the levers and horns. It uses a lateral clutch system with an oscillating pinion and then a smooth, or I should say perhaps a abrasive textured roller that is perfectly round. The textured roller allows the chronograph system to engage much like a vertical clutch. If you can imagine how vertical clutches have no inherent play because there are no teeth, the roller, which is an abrasive roller that is not toothed, it allows this system to engage without any jump or stagger like a vertical clutch, but it also gives you the beauty of a lateral clutch. Now, to brace it against shock, that is separation of the driving pinion from the driven wheel, there is also a toothed system that overlaps over a separate toothed driven wheel. So you have both the abrasive round roller and a toothed system. The round roller to prevent jump and dragging, just like a vertical clutch would, and then the toothed wheel to prevent separation of the driving and the driven surfaces in the event of shock. And if that sounds pretty complex, that's because it is. The Agénograph features a patented clutch system that is unique to this watch and those watches that use the Agénograph caliber. Otherwise, you can see that the finish is gorgeous. Engine turning, satination, Côte de Genève, perlage, mirrored beveling, black polished screws. There is no shortage of eye candy on this caseback. This watch is simply chock-a-block with innovation, with a case and a bracelet immaculately hand-finished. One of the best sports watches of 2020 and one of the best you can buy at any price. Reach out to Team Mosso at thewatchbox.com for purchase and pricing details. And we're back with the Streamliner Flyback Chronograph Funky Blue.